Greetings everyone, Jeremy Sutton here from PrecisionPrinciple.com, coming to you from Makloganj, India on day 4 of the intensive Ashtanga yoga training. Now as you can tell, it's evening here. I didn't get a chance to film earlier today, so it's been a long day. I'm a little bit tired, but I have a lot to go over, so let's get started. Now today in the philosophical class, we dove into Samkhya theory, Samkhya philosophy. Now I mentioned yesterday that Samkhya is often known as theoretical yoga, and yoga is sometimes known as practical Samkhya. So that is to say that the theory, the foundation of Samkhya is very intimately tied to the ideas found in yoga. Now, Samkhya has several general principles. Now, the first general orienting principle is that Samkhya is an atheistic philosophy. No God, no divinity. It is spiritual, but it is not religious. That is, religion is an organized group type of thing, and spirituality, in this sense, refers to each individual's personal experience, their own kind of spiritual awakening. So it is spiritual, but it's not religious, and it's atheistic. The second part is that it is considered a realist. It's realist philosophy. It's in realism opposed to idealism. Realism, in this sense, means that it is on the basis that the external world is real, and it's the same for me, you, and everyone else. There is an objective, measurable, quantifiable, exactly how it is, external universe. This is contrasted to an idealistic outlook where some philosophies will mention that all of manifestation is an illusion, and the point of things is to see through that illusion. But this is not one of them. Realism is part of this philosophy. The next part is that it's a dualistic philosophy. That is, it has a clear separation between consciousness and matter, or subject and object, or experience and matter, as we'll get to in a little bit. And the next one is that of the two sides there, the consciousness and the matter, that consciousness, Purusha, is the basis from which everything comes forth. Now, let's get more into that here. This is certainly a little bit abstract, a little bit theoretically hairy if you haven't been in this topic before. So let's dive in and see where we get. Now, Samkhya has two meanings right off the bat. Number one is right knowledge, and considering that it's the theoretical ground for yoga, it makes sense that it's knowledge is a strong part of it. The second part of it is numbers, and the reason that it means numbers is that Samkhya philosophy holds that there are 25 basic parts to a human being, and we're not going to go into all of those today, but we will focus on the main two, which parallels that dualistic underpinning that we mentioned earlier. So, the first part of the Samkhya is Purusha. Purusha is pure consciousness. But it's not consciousness in the sense that you and I experience it on a day-to-day basis like we are experiencing it right now. Our regular consciousness is predicated on a subject, a sense of self, an I who's in here, and an object, something that's being watched. If I say, I see you, or I see this notebook, then I am the subject, and the notebook is the object. For anybody who's interested to going more deeply into subject-object relationships, I would highly recommend either Robert Kegan's book, The Evolving Self, or Ken Wilber's A Theory of Everything. Both of these dive into these subjects with a lot greater detail. But the point here is that Purusha is pure consciousness. It is pure subject. That is, Purusha can never be observed as an object. You can't look at it because it's the ground below everything else. It's like trying to see your own eyes. We can't see our eye because our eye is always looking out. In this sense, our eye is the subject looking out at objects, and we can look in the mirror, but we're not really seeing our actual eye. We're seeing the image of our eye reflected in the mirror. So Purusha, the pure consciousness, is the foundation of everything. It is pure subject. It can never be viewed externally. It can only be felt subjectively. In some schools of meditation, if you can identify with this pure consciousness, it would be considered identifying with the witness. It's the one in here, the person in here that is witnessing everything that is happening out there. So that's the first step, pure consciousness, Purusha. The second division of this dualistic theory is, I think it's called Prakriti. I'm sure that's, my Sanskrit doesn't exist, and that's a terrible pronunciation. But what that means in English is external material universe. Here we're talking about all the objects around us. Everything in the universe is made of this material. All right, so that's the major split. We have consciousness, we have material, that's subject, and object, that's interior and exterior. That is the basis for this dualistic philosophy. Now, in the material side of the coin, there are three major elements, maybe we'll call them, that make up everything. They're called the three gunas. The first one is called sattva. It is represented by the color white, and it represents knowledge, concentration, clarity, peace, tranquility, all of the positive characteristics that we might aspire to. The second is raja, and it is red, and this is where we get mobility, motion, activity. This is where also we get pain, where we get assertiveness, aggressiveness, greed. It kind of comes from this red raja energy. And then the third one is tamas, and tamas is black, and this is where we get lethargy, a lack of movement, depression, inactivity is this third one here. Sleep, drowsiness is also in this category. So an interesting part of this theory is that these three elements sort of make up the personality of all of us. So we can kind of see we all have a dominant gunas, we all have a dominant energy that we sort of leads us, but we all have all three. So none of us are completely only one. Instead, we are a mix, a unique mix of all three. And this is sort of a theory of personality made up in these three gunas. Now, the red and the black, the activity, pain, assertiveness, and the black are lethargy and laziness, drowsiness. These are considered the sort of undesirable qualities that we might have within us. And the desirable ones are those, that white quality, the concentration, contemplation, the clarity, peace of mind. So this theory has a clear direction for personal development. That is, we are to move from either our drowsiness or our laziness or lethargy, or from our assertiveness, aggressiveness, greediness, and we're supposed to move from these elements towards sattva, towards that white one, towards concentration, towards contemplation, towards knowledge. So, an important part of this theory is that we're born a certain way with a certain disposition. However, we can change. This kind of echoes the Stanford psychologist Carol Dweck's not so recent, but in the last few years, her work on the growth mindset, where essentially they've shown that if you tell students that they affect their own learning, then they actually learn more quickly. They learn more compared to other students who haven't been told that they affect their own learning, or they have the power to control their own learning. So a central aspect of this ancient philosophy is that you can change. In fact, you can change your basic nature, is an argument that's made right here. And so the last point to be made is that Purusha is the ground of all being, and that Prakriti, the material world, only comes into existence after that pure consciousness influences it into existing, following this philosophy. So the point is this, that even though those three gunas make up our personality, and that white one, the sattva, is the most desirable characteristic that we all want to shoot for, all of those are still part of the Prakriti, the material universe, which is not the foundation of all that is. So enlightenment, moksha, the purpose of this path is to get past the prakriti and to the purusha, to identify with the pure consciousness. And so the practice of yoga is the process for moving from that external world. By looking at an object, we see the object with our senses, the senses come back to our mind, and the mind is there on top of this consciousness. The yoga is helping us move through that process so that we're fully aware, so that we're fully conscious, even when we don't have an object to be conscious of. And that is essentially the course of enlightenment. So, I know it's a bit abstract today. Perhaps tomorrow when I have a bit more time, we'll dive into this a little bit further. I'm sure there's going to be a lot more information tomorrow as well. But in the meantime, thank you for joining me. So just keep learning, keep growing, and have a great day.